Imagine a glimmer of hope piercing through 2 years of relentless conflict in the Middle East, a potential end to the bloodshed in Gaza that has claimed countless lives and shattered families on both sides. This isn't just another headline. It's a historic moment where Israel and Hamas have reportedly struck a deal for swapping hostages and prisoners, potentially paving the way for peace. But here's where it gets controversial. Is this truly a step toward lasting resolution, or just a temporary pause in a cycle of violence that many fear will reignite? Stick around, because the details reveal layers of diplomacy, tension, and unanswered questions that could reshape the region forever. In a development that's been eagerly anticipated by millions, Israel and Hamas have finalized an agreement centered on freeing Israeli hostages in return for Palestinian detainees. This breakthrough, facilitated by President Trump, marks what could be the beginning of the end to the devastating war that erupted in Gaza back in October 2023. Trump took to social media on Wednesday to announce that both parties had endorsed the initial stage of his comprehensive peace initiative, which includes Israel withdrawing its forces to a predetermined boundary. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed a conversation with Trump and stated he would gather his cabinet on Thursday to formally approve the pact. From Hamas's perspective, as outlined in their official release, this accord is poised to conclude the hostilities in Gaza and ensure Israel's complete exit from the area. The group urged Trump and international mediators to guarantee that Israel adheres strictly to all terms of the deal. Additionally, Hamas, alongside Qatar, one of the key negotiators, indicated that the agreement would facilitate the delivery of humanitarian aid into Gaza, addressing the dire needs of its population. Yet, the finer points of the hostage-prisoner swap and the specifics of Israel's military retreat remain shrouded in ambiguity. Initial Israeli communications made no reference to a troop withdrawal, and while Netanyahu vowed that every Israeli hostage would return home, he provided no further particulars. To grasp the full context, let's rewind to the war's origins. It all began on October 7, 2023, when Hamas launched a surprise assault on Israel, resulting in the deaths of approximately 1,200 individuals and the abduction of around 250 hostages. In response, Israel's military operations have led to the loss of over 67,000 Palestinian lives, encompassing both civilians and fighters, as reported by Gaza's health authorities. The conflict has also left Gaza's infrastructure in utter devastation, with homes, schools, and hospitals reduced to rubble, a humanitarian catastrophe that's hard to fathom for those unfamiliar with the region's history. Fast forward to late September, when Trump introduced his ambitious 20-point blueprint aimed at halting the war and securing the hostages' release. This plan proposes trading the Israeli captives for 250 Palestinians serving life sentences and an additional 1,700 Gazans detained by Israel since the war's onset. According to an insider privy to the negotiations, who spoke anonymously to protect diplomatic sensitivities, all surviving hostages, estimated at about 20, could be freed simultaneously, possibly as early as Sunday. The remains of up to 28 deceased hostages would follow in phased releases, contingent on the time required to recover them. That said, doubts persist about whether this truly signals the war's conclusion. Hamas has openly balked at Netanyahu's insistence on their disarmament, and none of the statements from Israel, Qatar, the United States, or Hamas broached the topic of the group's arsenal. And this is the part most people miss. Without addressing the root causes of radicalization and security fears, could this deal simply delay another eruption? For a deeper dive into the reactions and implications, here's a closer look at some key aspects. Hope amid despair in Gaza. Residents of Gaza greeted the news with a cautious optimism, dreaming of an end to their prolonged ordeal. Take Montasser Bahia, an English teacher who's been displaced in Khan Yunis along with his family. He described a whirlwind of emotions, joy for the cessation of violence and sorrow for our immense losses. Families stayed up late, eyes fixed on screens, anxiously awaiting confirmation of when the truce might take effect. This human element underscores the toll of war, where everyday people like teachers and students, for instance, it demands Hamas's disarmament and exclusion from Gaza's governance, which the group has rejected as an infringement on Palestinian rights. To help beginners understand, think of it like a roadmap for rebuilding. It envisions a neutral committee overseeing Gaza, with international oversight to ensure stability. But critics argue this could undermine Palestinian self-determination. Food for thought on whether external powers should dictate local futures. Trump's ultimatum and Hamas's response. On Friday, Trump issued a stern warning to Hamas, threatening intensified military action if no agreement was reached by Sunday evening. That same day, Hamas signaled willingness to free all hostages, both alive and deceased, but insisted on discussing certain plan elements. By evening, Trump expressed confidence that Hamas was prepared for enduring peace and urged Israel to halt its airstrikes. Pressure mounting on Israel. The September 9th Israeli airstrike targeting Hamas officials in Qatar's capital sparked outrage among regional leaders and in Washington. This incident, which Qatar's prime minister condemned as an attempt to undermine peace efforts, placed Trump in a tricky spot with allies. Ultimately, it galvanized Trump and his team to push Netanyahu toward endorsing a war-ending framework. For context, Qatar hosts a U.S. military base, making the strike a diplomatic misstep that highlighted the delicate balance of international alliances. Now, let's explore how stalled negotiations evolved into this agreement. As the Gaza conflict approached its third year on Wednesday evening, Trump revealed that Israel and Hamas had embraced the first phase of his late September peace proposal. The breakthrough emerged from intense talks in Egypt, mediated by nations like Qatar, Egypt, and the United States. These parties acted as intermediaries since Israel and Hamas avoid direct dialogue. The deal materialized swiftly after numerous failed ceasefire attempts, exacerbated by Gaza's worsening humanitarian emergency. A pivotal shift occurred in early September when Israel conducted an airstrike on a residential area in Doha, Qatar, where Hamas negotiators were meeting. Although no fatalities resulted among the Hamas team, the attack provoked fury across the Middle East and in Washington. Qatar's prime minister accused Israel of deliberately obstructing peace. Given Qatar's status as a U.S. ally with an American military presence, Trump criticized the strike as counterproductive, tweeting that it didn't serve Israel's or America's interests. Ironically, this incident fueled Trump's resolve to compel Netanyahu to back a peace structure. On September 23rd, during the United Nations General Assembly, Trump and his Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, met with leaders from Arab and Muslim nations to outline the plan's basics. This came just a day after a UN gathering where countries like France, Britain, Canada, Australia, Portugal, and Belgium recognized Palestinian statehood, amplifying global pressure on Israel. Facing isolation, Netanyahu couldn't ignore his key ally, Trump. On September 29th, at the White House, with Netanyahu present, Trump detailed his 20-point strategy for ceasing hostilities, liberating hostages, and managing post-war Gaza. During the meeting, Netanyahu apologized to Qatar's prime minister for the strike, with Trump witnessing the call. Trump then turned his attention to Hamas, issuing his Friday ultimatum. Hamas replied affirmatively, agreeing to hostage releases, but seeking negotiations on details. That night, Trump declared Hamas ready for lasting peace and called for an end to Israel's bombings. Netanyahu followed suit on Saturday, pledging Israeli cooperation with the White House to conclude the war. By Monday, discussions in Egypt focused on the plan's opening phase, prisoner exchanges, and partial Israeli withdrawals. Everyone desires this outcome, Trump noted at the White House, even Hamas. Soon after, prominent figures joined the talks, including Witkoff, Trump's former advisor Jared Kushner, and Qatar's prime minister. In a Wednesday night interview on Fox News with Sean Hannity, Trump celebrated the accord as a historic triumph for Middle East peace, though he skimmed over potential challenges. "The entire world rallied behind this deal," he remarked. Hours later, in that same Fox News chat, Trump lauded the agreement as a historic win, ushering in regional peace. Yet he devoted minimal airtime to specifics. He claimed the hostages might be freed by Monday and assured Netanyahu that the world is warming to Israel again. "Israel can't battle the world, Bibi," Trump recalled telling him. Trump hinted at U.S. aid for Gaza's reconstruction and a powerful Council of Peace, but offered no operational details. He sidestepped questions on Hamas's disarmament, prisoner release timelines, or Gaza's future governance, issues that have long stymied talks. Instead, much of the interview veered into Trump's tariffs and his push for National Guard deployments in Democrat-led cities. He boasted of achieving global peace through tariff threats, dismissing lawsuits against his policies as actions by enemies of the country. "We won't tolerate those who resist. We'll impose tariffs," he stated. The deal followed Trump's escalated efforts, including his September 20-point plan for a ceasefire. Exchanging hostages for 250 lifers and 1,700 war detainees, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney commended Trump for his crucial leadership and thanked Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey. "After immense suffering, peace seems within reach," he said. Canada urges all sides to implement terms swiftly for a fair, enduring peace. U.S. officials praised the team. Mike DiMino, Deputy Assistant Defense Secretary for the Middle East, tweeted, "Truly historic. Proud of the whole team. Impossible without POTUS's leadership and dedication to regional peace." The Hostages and Missing Families Forum shared a video of relatives and freed captives in Washington thanking Trump over the phone. "Thank you," they cheered, with Trump responding warmly. Pushpa Joshi, 18, sister of abducted Nepali student Bipin Joshi, expressed overwhelming emotion. After 2 years of uncertainty, she hopes for updates and reunion. "I'm confident I'll see my brother smile and hold his hand," she said. In the interview, Trump reiterated his tariff strategy for global influence, but avoided deal specifics. The Israeli military welcomed the accord, preparing for hostage returns while maintaining readiness. Senator John Fetterman, a Democrat supportive of Israel, praised Trump's historic peace plan for freeing hostages, noting shared commitments despite party differences. Trump predicted Sunday releases, with an Israeli official confirming expectations. He recounted telling Netanyahu, "Israel can't fight the world, Bibi. They can't." Trump hailed it as Middle East peace, but details like withdrawal lines and disarmament remain vague. Delving into Trump's 20-point plan, announced Wednesday as agreed upon initially, it aims to end the Gaza war and exchange hostages for prisoners. Presented late last month at the White House with Netanyahu, it calls for an immediate ceasefire, hostage releases, troop withdrawals, and aid influx to alleviate Gaza's crisis. However, elements Hamas has opposed could complicate matters. The plan requires Hamas to disarm and relinquish Gaza's governance, a stance Israel demands but Hamas rejects. Post-Hamas, a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee would govern, supervised by a peace board chaired by Trump and featuring Tony Blair. Gaza would become a de-radicalized, terror-free zone for redevelopment. The board would oversee reconstruction, fund it temporarily, and reform the Palestinian Authority for control. Accusations of corruption plague the authority, which manages parts of the West Bank. The board aims for modern, efficient governance to attract investment, including a special economic zone with trade perks. No forced displacements. Voluntary exits and returns are allowed, with incentives to stay and rebuild. Trump previously floated relocations, drawing backlash, but has dropped the idea. Regional partners would enforce compliance, with a U.S.-led international stabilization force deploying immediately to train Palestinian police and secure borders with Jordan and Egypt. Israel commits to no occupation or annexation, withdrawing per demilitarization milestones. Far-right Israeli factions have pushed for annexation. The U.S. will foster Israel-Palestine dialogue for coexistence, but the plan doesn't guarantee a Palestinian state. It suggests conditions might enable self-determination and statehood as aspirations. All 20 living hostages could release Sunday, remains in stages. Gaza's Palestinians hope for relief, as Bahaja described. On the hostages, about 250 abducted in October 2023, some already deceased. Israel estimates 20 alive, 25 bodies remain. Videos show captives' frailty, raising survival concerns. Bodies retrieval takes time. Prior releases via ceasefires and rescues, deaths from executions, airstrikes, friendly fire. In exchange, Israel frees 250 lifers and 1,700 detainees, plus 15 Gazan remains per Israeli body. Netanyahu called it a critical turning point and thanked Trump. Preparations underway for weekend releases. Families feel excitement mixed with worry, urging swift approval. In Israel, late-night broadcasts and emotional social media posts reflect joy. Iran supports Palestinian decisions, but a disarmament deal could weaken its axis of resistance strategy. Hamas calls for full implementation. Israeli President Herzog stands with hostages. As we wrap up, this deal sparks intense debate. Does it prioritize justice for Palestinians, or does it favor Israel's security at the expense of long-term equity? And here's a controversial angle. Some argue Trump's involvement tilts the scales toward American interests, potentially sidelining broader international consensus. What do you think? Is this a genuine path to peace, or a fragile truce doomed to fail? Do you agree that disarmament is essential, or does it infringe on Palestinian sovereignty? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's discuss.